Welcome back, folks, to the NAED South Central Regional Conference live streams.
Here we are, Austin,
Back.
Texas.
Yeah, we got really great support. Scott was telling me that some of them 300 views and stuff like that.
Coming in hot already.
That's pretty good, man,
Yeah.
for a live stream. So thank you for listening. And we're going to tell you, we're building this thing on the rock, Greg.
The Keystone Rock.
Oh, go to KeystoneTech.com. That's KeystoneTech.com. Light made easy, the Retrofit Kings, Greg.
Do it up. Check them out.
So we're going to talk about a dorky subject here now. Get ready. Data.
Data dorks.
Data and software.
We love it. Is that dorky? I didn't know.
Well, first of all, let's say it's Denise Keating, the CEO of Data Agility. Did I say that correctly?
Data agility.
Data Agility.
Very close. Mm-hmm.
Okay, and we got Mike Wentz, and that's Insight Software.
Mm-hmm.
So why don't we start with you, Mike? What does Insight Software do, and what do you do every day there?
Insight Software has been building engagement and e-commerce software for about the last 15 years, specializing primarily in distribution and manufacturing firms.
Okay, and Denise, tell us a little bit about Data Agility.
Okay, Data agility.
Data Agility.
I know
Data
that's all right.
I'm gonna get it.
That's fine. I co-founded it 15 years ago, and we're a full data management services provider. And what does that really mean? It means that when manufacturers want to create content about their products and share it out in the marketplace, you have to structure that data. You have to have data that's cleansed and normalized and enriched. And when you have that data structured in a way that your channel partners can easily use, then you can drive real business value.
So you're like a database company.
More data. We do have data subscription services, but when we talk about product content, we're talking about the part numbers, UPC codes, all the digital assets like brochures, images.
That's such a huge problem, actually.
Yes, it is.
It really is. Like I'm looking at it from the lighting perspective, but I'm sure it's as a lighting distributor. But you have these. There's a lot of information out there that's set in different ways by different people, and it's on the internet. And like one example is like Amazon. Amazon has so much erroneous data when it comes to lighting.
Absolutely, they do. And everybody talks about all the things that Amazon does right.
Yeah.
Right. And you hear a lot about that, but not so much about what they're not doing well. And while a lot of people will look at their data and say it's really robust, the question is, it can be robust, but is it complete? Is it accurate?
Well, you have light bulbs that are called cool white daylight.
They got them both covered.
Yeah, it's like
circadian friendly.
The bulb is two colors, right?
Yeah.
Or the wrong feet. It's a 4-foot bulb, but it's F60 T12.
Yeah,
that's not a 4-foot bulb,
right?
So you know what I mean? Like there's all kinds of bad data out there.
Does your company dive into that? Is that what you guys?
We absolutely do. So we'll take a look at a manufacturer's data set. And you got to remember too, that when manufacturers are managing their data, they have data that sits in separate systems. And when you start managing data in multiple systems, you're more prone to error and
it's like a data silo. It's like a silo.
It is a silo. It is a silo. So we go in.
And that silo is separated from the other silo.
That's right.
And it grows on its own.
Right.
It gets fungus on it, and this one doesn't.
That's right. And then you have different people managing it, and they're not doing it at the same time, and the systems don't talk. So you end up with data that's completely out of sync. And then when you try to share that data with your channel partners and they try to order things from you, it's prone to error again. So you look at that and you say, in order to really provide an enhanced customer buying experience, you want them to be able to buy your products with confidence. And they can do that when you're giving them the right data.
Yes. How do we get into this mess?
You know what? I think that when you traditionally look at companies, Mike, jump in anytime.
Okay.
I love the whole data thing. But when you look at manufacturers and you look at where their core strengths are, it really is about their products, right? How they have a very, I'll say a recipe for how they create a product, right? They would never think of creating that product in their manufacturing facility without that recipe and having control procedures in place. But when it comes to the data, they've never really given in-depth consideration that their data is also a silent salesperson for them. And each person in the company can have different ways of managing that data. And the systems that manufacturers had, their legacy systems, didn't allow them to set rules that would allow them to create a consistent set of data.
Sure.
So we're changing that. There's a lot of new technology out there. There are companies like myself that can go in and help manufacturers set up that central repository of truth, put all the rules and validations in place.
Repository of
like
truth.
That one.
That sounds like something from 1984, the George Orwell, the central repository of truth.
But Still necessary.
You know what's interesting is I bet you, like, so I'm Canadian.
Okay.
So, like a big Canadian company is like 100 people.
Mm-hmm.
That's a small American company, right? So the scope of things in the United States is different. I bet you a lot of these very large manufacturers and electrical distributors and that, maybe they don't even know how their people use the data.
Correct. Because when you look at companies, they usually have an internal eye in terms of how they're going to use the data. But the reality is that data has to get shared outside of their organizations.
Yes.
And their channel partners have different systems, they have different limitations, and they don't always understand that. So our company really helps manufacturers and distributors bridge that gap. How you create it, and let's take your data and structure it in a way that makes it really easy for your channel partners to leverage that data. Because, and one of the things that you'll hear me say frequently, and I'll say it right now.
Say it right now.
I'll say it right now, and that is, there's no value to data until you put that data into motion. So if you can
Data in motion.
Data in motion, right?
You're just throwing them out there.
Just like that.
Central repository of truth. The data's in motion. I love it.
Data in motion. So anyway, Mike, what would you?
No, I just reinforce that. I mean, our company builds software systems that help customers engage with distributors. But if you don't have a good foundation of content and data, the software is really worthless.
Yeah.
So,
Yes.
Today, I mean, I've heard people coin the phrase that today the product is the data, or the data is the product. And if you don't have good quality content, it's very hard to promote those products and sell those products, whether it's even online or even in the store or the branch.
I think that's where software programs fall apart. And that's where when people don't understand internally how people are using data, and then they make a system and they say, this is how you need to use the data. And the reality is that the naked apes say, no, I'll use it any way I want to, actually. The humans on the other side are like, well, nah. And so you end up making these software systems that don't deliver the end result that the customer was looking for, Mike.
Well, and that's one of the major failings of a lot of software companies and companies that automate any process from the get-go. Oftentimes, theoretically think how the process should work. There was once a story about a university or a college in the United States that they would build new buildings, but before they would put in any of the sidewalks that goes through the campus, they would wait to see where the grass got worn out.
Ah, interesting. Okay.
So, I think that's the way it works with a lot of the better software companies when they try to build a process or automate a process is, they go in and study how the work is actually being done, how the customers actually consume the data, how do they best want to interact with that company.
So it's interesting. It's like these software systems contribute to like a giant game, data-based game of broken telephone or something.
Absolutely do. So when you think about it too, when you look at data typically originates with the manufacturer, but the further out in the supply chain you get, the worse the data becomes, because they are all challenged with how to share that data efficiently and effectively. And then you have to take the data from the distributor and serve it up to your customer. So if your customers or contractors are in the B2B business, they're keeping a database of data as well.
Sure.
So the further you go out, the dirtier it gets, the harder it is to serve. So we as a channel really have to be exploring the solutions that will help the full supply chain share high quality data so they can use it effectively to serve the customers and to sell the products.
Is part of it defining what the data should consist of? Like, here are the categories, here everybody should state this, this, and this.
Right. And I would say that when we're working with our clients on data, we always start with the functionality, right? What are you trying to accomplish? Because when you understand the functions that you want to accomplish, then you can start to put the data set in place. These are the data components that are going to be required to support that functionality. Now, you can do that one-on-one, but if you really want to gain greater efficiencies, then you want to look at that from an industry perspective, because a lot of the companies are going to offer the same types of functionality to serve their customers. So then you want to create a data standard that says, here are these product categories, and here's the content that we as an industry need to.
Isn't that restrictive in a way too, though?
You know what? It's never meant to be restrictive, but almost everybody has a baseline of data requirements that are the same. You all have part numbers. You all have UPC codes.
Sure.
You all want product descriptions for your items, right? So how do you create a product description I'll just give you an example. If you've got if you're a manufacturer and you're creating a 60 character description and your distributor systems only have 40,
Sure.
right? And you as a manufacturer decide to put that noun at the end of it, you're going to find out that you have a 15 amp, 600 volt,
Oh yeah,
yellow
lighting's the worst.
something.
So lighting's the worst. So we scrape our vendors' websites. Okay, I'm in the
Mhm.
middle of building my own software
Mhm.
to
Okay.
run my business. Okay, and he saw me working on it this morning. I had the developers on, and we were talking about data actually. And so you go to one manufacturer's website, and he calls it initial lumens.
Mm-hmm.
Another manufacturer calls it lumens, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then another one, another example, rated average lifetime, right?
Mhm.
Hours. It's like they
Mhm.
all have different names,
Yes.
headings for the same information.
Mhm.
Every single manufacturer calls it something slightly different.
Yes.
Now, when the human looks at it, it's like, oh, I know what that is. That's
Mhm.
the lumens. But you can't categorize by that. You can't like it, that when it comes in, it's very dirty and messy.
That's right. So what we have as an industry in this channel, we have an
Yes.
organization called IDEA. They have a what they call a data connector platform.
Sure.
It's built on a data standard, and we have taken all of those attribute labels that you just
Attribute labels. That's what they are. Yes.
right, these attribute labels, and we said here's going to be the common name in which we call this, right, and the manufacturers can map all of those various labels to a single
So who
standard
would do
label.
that? Is that Nemra that would do that, or who would?
It,
NEMA?
actually, it go
It's
ahead, Mike.
actually a standards organization that was created by the channel probably almost 20 years ago now. And what that group consists of is members of the manufacturers, NEMA, and members from the NAED side get together and they establish these standards so that, again, it simplifies the process and it makes it, the end result is clean data because everybody's following the same script.
It's interesting that one of the things that really drives innovation is or meaningful innovation, shall I say, is when you remove things that don't help the end result and standardize them. So you take away people's, like one of the things in lighting, the Jaga Consortium is trying to make form factors the same. So you don't have to worry about how big a driver is. It's set, right? And so this removes like areas of where people are doing things. And you look at, even if you look at areas like things like poetry, okay, which is an interesting thing. The best poetry in the world that ever written was written in highly structured, rule-based, written in iambic pentameter, 12 lines, 10 syllables per line. But you would never know that those rules were in place. It sounds so beautiful when it's spoken. You wouldn't know that all those rules were in place and that people were abiding by those rules. And when people break those rules, it's just bad poetry.
Yeah.
It's not good. It's
like bad music. I mean, music is math,
Sure.
and that's why music sounds so wonderful, is because there is structure to it.
I actually
and
believe
there are
there's
rules.
anti-music.
Anti-music?
I believe there's anti-music.
Okay.
I think there's
Tell us.
music and anti-music. Like some music is just really horrible. Like it's offensive. Like mumble rap. Baba dibba dabba dibba da, like is that mumble rap? They talk about Drake from Toronto, right?
Yeah.
Oh, he has more he's bigger than the Beatles. It's like every single song sounds exactly the same.
It's a formula.
But it's also anti-music. It's not music. He's not trying to make his voice sound beautiful. He's not integrating musical instruments. He's sitting in front of a computer. Sorry, Drake, you're a marketing genius, but you're not a good musician. I'm just saying it if you care about what I think. But yes, I think that rules. So yes, I think music and anti-music. It's a better way to think about it, actually, I think. But I think that we need rules, but who should be in charge is the question, right?
Well, you know what? I think the
Denise
word
Keating.
"in charge" is probably not the best word. I think what we really want is a collaboration.
There you go.
Because when you put if you look at the supply chain and you say we're going to put manufacturers in charge, sometimes you're going to create rules that don't work for your distributors. You put the distributors in charge, and all of a sudden the manufacturers can't get what they need. So I think it really has to be a collaboration.
So that's a very
between the
feminine
channel.
thing to say, not female. The
Okay.
feminine.
Okay.
So like this is why you need more women in the industry.
We do.
Not because that men don't think like that, just because men are less likely to think like that. Men are more likely to think about who's in charge of this. The masculine is like
That is
authoritative.
True. That's right.
Right. And some women are like that, and some men are more feminine based. But that's a very feminine way to look at it. That's how we do it. We collaborate together, and we set this.
You know what?
We
I'm gonna
bring in
say?
all the stakeholders.
Yeah. I think that instead of saying that it's feminine, can we just say it's the right way?
There you go. Well, I don't. I think so. I think listen. There's a beauty in the marriage of the masculine and feminine. It completes things. It's a creative force. That blend.
Absolutely.
So, but like we've been talking with different women, and they're saying that we have these women councils in the electrical distribution business and this sort of stuff to make it. I don't like the word inclusivity. I think it's been overused a bit, but maybe be more welcoming to women. So I think that's a feminine idea. Maybe it's the right way, but I think it belongs. I think it belongs.
Maybe you got to get a little stronger on the maybe.
I'm not sure. I think it's the right way to do this. I don't think it's the right way to do everything.
All right, fair enough.
I think it's the right way to handle that.
Do you guys affiliate then at all? Or your companies? Two separate companies?
Absolutely.
Okay.
We work hand in hand because generally people want to think about their data after they get their software, and we try to recommend clean up your data, make sure your content is in shape before you invest in software, before you try to implement. So our best users tend to be Denise's best customers as well, and we work together personally when I was at IDEA for the last 10 years. I recently moved over to Insight about 6 months ago, but Denise's company has really, really rounded out the offering for distributors to take the next step to really have high quality data so that they can do some business online, they can communicate.
So this industry is oftentimes, so I've said this on this live stream before, but Uber is not that complicated, actually. It's a pretty simple concept, right? And Amazon is really not that complicated. At its core, it's really simple. Google is not that complicated. It's a very simple business, actually, when you understand. Yes, people look at the screen and we show them ads, and we charge people for the ads. And we give them this really good search tool, and we get to charge them to see ads. That's what it is. This business is very complicated when it comes to selling stuff online. The other thing is that this business is very commoditized for a lot of the products.
Oh, I don't like the word commoditized. I don't think many people listening to the podcast or videocast will like that either. But yes, some products are commoditized.
Right. So is there room for who's going to be the winner? Because there's going to be some people are going to learn how to do this using Denise and Mike, and they're going to put together really awesome systems that work. And these systems are going to come out in the next 10 or 5 to 10, 15 years. And they're going to get better and better and better and better. And they're not going to change the channel. They're just going to improve the flow of information from the manufacturer through to the end user, to the customer. How is this going to play out?
I think that when we talk about data, and we talked about putting it into motion.
Sure.
I think the competitive advantage is how you choose to put that data into motion. So you can have the Insight e-commerce platform, but how each distributor builds out that functionality and makes decisions on how to present that data is what's going to create a unique customer experience. Maybe on the surface, all of the basic components are the same, but it's really how you take the approach. It's how you package it all together to deliver that experience. I would like to, instead of saying I think that there's going to be a single winner, maybe this is the feminine thing again, but I look at this distribution channel, and you take a look at all of the companies that are trying to erode our market share. Right, you got the big box retailers. They've been trying to eat away at our market share for several years.
Sure.
And you've got the online retailers like Amazon coming in. I really want this channel to be the channel of first choice. And I think that we can do that because right now, one of the strongest advantages that we have is that we truly understand that B2B buyer in a way that Lowe's and Home Depot and Amazon do not. And so if we can embrace and adopt technology and marry that with high quality data, I think the whole distribution channel can win.
Yeah, and I think just to add, I think one of the mistakes that a lot of distributors make is they look at online systems as just a way to sell online, and it's a bigger conversation, right? It's about digital integration. It's about tying all these disparate systems together. So if you have a contractor that has an estimating system and he does a takeoff from a blueprint and he wants to upload that to see if his particular distributor, his primary or secondary, has availability, what the pricing is, so that he can do that job estimate at 10 o'clock at night after his kids went to bed, he's going to want to do that.
Or whenever he wants, actually, or she wants.
Right.
So it's really, and then there's overused term called omni-channel, but really omni-channel is just matching up to your customers and doing business with them whichever way they want to do it. Some will want to do it on a mobile app. Some will want to still use the phone, and we're never going to get away from that, I don't think. But others are going to want to have their estimating systems tied in, their procurement systems, if it's industrial, if they have a BIM system, where they're managing a building, they're going to want to have that business digitally integrated, connecting machine to machine without a human.
Yep. I think the winners are really going to be those who learn how to blend the physical world with the digital world.
See, I think the way if I'm trying to put my future forward looking hat on for a second, I think you look at the winners in the digital tech world in the last 15 years, that's over now. Like all the little easy stuff's done, right? It's all done. Amazon's out there. It's only going to be incrementally improved. There's nothing revolutionary going to come. I think the winners or the companies that succeed is probably a better way to put it. The companies that succeed and grow into this will do this, and what they'll do is they'll take their subject matter expertise, that what they do as a business. And NAED is a really interesting organization because you say electrical distributors. Every single one of these distributors is totally different business. Like they do different things, and even their branches within them do different things sometimes. I think the winner is going to be the one that somehow takes their existing business model and combines it and puts it into the motion, like you said, the data's in motion, and really develops tools that humans can use to help make things faster, more accurate, and better. And I think that's what that the people that don't choose to do that are not going to finish in first place.
Agreed.
Yep.
Is it data or data? I feel like I heard both. But...
You know what? I think it depends on the coast that you're from. East Coast says it one way. Midwesterners may be slightly different.
Okay.
Canadians
All
say about
That's what I needed.
About
all
the
right.
data.
Yeah. So, folks out there listening, that was a really fun one.
That was
I
good.
enjoyed it.
Yeah, very good.
We're sitting on the rock though, Greg.
Keystone Tech.
Oh yeah. Go to KEYSTONETECH.com. That's KeystoneTech.com. It's light made easy, man.
That's Rick King.
I got lots of good data over there.
Let's do it.
Boom.